.5 FM. Kite Radio.
Kite Radio.
Covering Guyana from coast to coast.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kite Radio.
It is 13 hours 38 all around Guyana, and it has been an eventful day in our country. And here to discuss that and more is senior journalist of Kite News, Leonard Gildarie, alongside Dr. Yog Mahadeo on elections and COVID-19 watch. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, dear Kevin. Good afternoon all across this wonderful land of ours. It is our country. Good afternoon to you too, if you're joining us from overseas, in New York, in Canada, in Europe, of course in the Caribbean, neighbors in Brazil, Suriname. A good day to you. My dear brother Yog, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
No, you got to speak up a little, man. These boys in the office here said they need to get the Yog all running, all hot and sweaty. Tomorrow is a very special day.
Can you hear me well?
I can hear you very well, but we want to see the energy in your voice.
Well, it's gonna come. It's gonna come. Don't worry. As we get into discussing of today's court case and the presentations there, and as you know, Mr. Kamal Ramkarran will be joining us any minute to give us his expert opinion of what transpired today. So it's coming.
Well, absolutely. So I want to tell you, I got a call while driving to work about an hour back, and the guy says, please tell Mr. Yog Mahadeo and yourself a happy early Father's Day, and this is coming from Ganesh in East Berbice. So he's saying to tell Yog and myself that, and so thank you very much, Ganesh, and all the people down in Berbice area, East Berbice area. Of course, a good day to you. It is very sunny outside, and it is a very critical day. For the entire week we've been coming to you, bringing you the news. Everybody is at the edge of the seat. We have been since March the 2nd. It is coming down to some critical moments. Yog, in the meantime, while we're waiting on counsel, the good counsel to make his appearance, there's some major developments that's been happening. There's that court case that started at 11 today. Very quickly, what transpired there? Guyana wants to know. There was, I think we were bringing it live and then it ended. In a nutshell, do we have an idea what transpired and what did the court say?
Well, I would prefer that let's wait for Mr. Ramkarran to join us. He should be here any minute.
Sure.
And so he can give us probably from a perspective, because we do know that arguments were made. We do know that Mr. Mendez was quite on point. I know also, we know also that a lot of our viewers and listeners would have been a little disturbed at the audio quality that emanated. But Leonard, there are lots of things we got to discuss today as well, because we are hearing more and more, of persons who would have packed up, empty their offices.
You hearing the same thing too?
Yes. I have been hearing the same exact thing. And more persons seems to be packing up. More and more persons realize that the writing is on the wall, except for probably now just a handful of persons. And I would like to join with you and say thank you for the Father's Day, early wishes, and also I would like to wish President David Granger a happy Father's Day to you, sir, and to all of the outgoing fathers from government and the incoming fathers. Happy Father's Day to you all, and happy Father's Day to all of the fathers across Guyana. So Leonard, certainly we're going to be looking to a great weekend, tomorrow being that special day. Huh?
Yes, absolutely. And I would want to echo the same thing to all fathers, wherever you are. But for us, it is going to be work as usual. I think we are making some plans for tomorrow night as well. I'm hoping that we don't have to do it. But if there are major breaking news, I think there's already planners on stream to say that people like us got to work all the time. So be it it's for our country. But in the meantime, we're waiting on the good counsel. We jump straight into the front page of Kite News. Seen so many headlines, major stories. Yog, today it's June the 20th, 2020. It is 111 days since March the 2nd election. I keep a running count on that, Yog. It's Ramkarran privately concedes loss in meeting with unit head. This is a very major development because, as you know, he is the smaller faction within the coalition, and as leader of the Alliance for Change, for him to have said that his department head and for it to have made its way into the media, it is an indication as to where he's standing. And of course, let's don't forget this major breaking story last evening. The son-in-law of President David Granger, a former business minister, Minister of Business, Dominic Gaskin. I can no longer wait quietly and politely while a country gets hijacked, ridiculed, and torn apart. He's called in Lowenfield's report. He called Lowenfield's report devious. Yog, let us get straight down to that. This is not an ordinary statement. He took to his Facebook page. It was over 1,100 words. 1,100 words, and he was very, very brutal, coming from where it all started to where. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry, my apologies. So for where it all started to down to this point in time with this court case. And so he has saying, I'm not sure whether people really understand the significance of this statement coming from the president's son-in-law. He has come out, and I'm sure this is going to have some repercussions to him. But of course, people are looking. Then, of course, the Justice for All Party, a partner within the A Partnership for National Unity, which is a larger faction within the coalition, and he has come out. This is C.N. Sharma, well known for his television days of Channel 6, and he's come out and say that we're considering, I think enough is enough. Please swear in Irfan Ali as the new president. Today that court case continue, and we're fortunate to be joined right now by attorney at law Kamal Ramkarran. Over to you, Yog.
Sorry, Kamal, welcome once again, and thank you. And Leonard, let me say, Mr. Ramkarran has been very kind to join us at last moment. I know he has his packed day, and I'm sorry to pull you away from your day, Kamal, as well as your family. I know you have a young one, and our young ones want to grab on and latch on to us as long as they can. Thank you for coming, my brother, and all over to you. Tell us what in your educated, what in your intelligent mind you can teach us about what transpired today.
Well, I've been listening on and off, not to everything that has been happening in the Court of Appeal, and of course the audio feed is not very good, so I've been trying to hear what's going on. As we talked about it yesterday, the Attorney General said that he is in full agreement with what the applicant says. He's in full agreement with the applicant's case. So there is that. The case seems to be from the applicant and from the Attorney General that GCOM made an order to deal with irregularities, and that order must be used now to address all of the irregularities that they are saying happened in elections. And so to say that the chief election officer should give his report only with the recount numbers would be not to address irregularities, and they're asking the court to interpret the Constitution to determine that more votes means more valid votes, and of course their contention is that the votes are not valid coming out from the recount.
Right. So Kamal, in terms of once again, I think Douglas Mendez, attorney at law, was really on his game. I mean, he is good. And he took pains to point out that, a lot of these things are things that ought not to come to this court. At one point, I believe there was an intense piece of presentation from him as to the question of jurisdiction, whether the court can even hear this thing at this stage, or whether, and he also took pains, Leonard, to identify that here's a piece of legislation that says High Court, here is a piece of legislation that says this other court. Over to you, Kamal.
Well, Mendes is still on his feet as we speak. He's still going through the arguments now, but he went through point by point on all of the ways that the court should not hear it. First, he says that the court has no jurisdiction, and then he says somewhere else has jurisdiction. I was making notes as he was speaking just now. I can get them up.
Sure.
He said that even with this section, this Article 177 of the Constitution, law has to be passed before this section can get effect, before it can become effective. Because he says, he quoted another section of the Constitution, and he said, how do we know how long after you can challenge the validity of the election of a president on qualifications? Can you come 3 years later? Can you come 5 years later? So a law has to be passed to set out the parameters of how this Article 177 operates. That hasn't been done, and so it doesn't has no effect at the moment. So the court can't determine anything at the moment. Then he says the elections haven't even been completed. There is no declaration, made, and so we can't determine the validity of the election of the president now because we don't have a new president. Another president has not been elected. So you can't go into this as yet. Then he said the CEO made a determination of the results of the elections. He made a determination of the validity of votes. But he said nobody asked him to do so, and nobody knows what was the basis upon which he made this this determination. And he said that the PPP did not have an opportunity to address the chief election officer on this issue. And then he went through the distinction between an election petition and the qualification jurisdiction under Article 177. So he distinguished the two and said that if you want to challenge the results of elections, you go to the election petition. He said it speaks about validity of elections. So would the situation be that you could be challenging the validity of a president in one court, but the elections of members of the National Assembly in another court? That would be absurd. He then said that if you look at the 177, it speaks about interpretation of the Constitution. He said, but this jurisdiction is very limited because another article of the Constitution, I think it was 133, which was raised by Justice Gregory to Mr. Jeremy, who appears for the applicant. She asked him what he thought about it, and he said, Mr. Jeremy said that he didn't think it was relevant. Mr. Mendez says this shows how narrow 177 is because it says that the Court of Appeal can determine questions on appeal from the High Court on the interpretation of the Constitution. So it is not as though the Court of Appeal is the only place you can come to interpret the Constitution. You can interpret the Constitution in the High Court. And Mr. Mendez also said that there is no provision in the Constitution which permits GCOM to cancel election. It's just not allowed by the laws of Guyana. And up to when I was listening, up to the end of when I was listening, the judge, Justice Gregory, was questioning him about what should be done with the irregularities. What should the court do? He was trying to steer her back to the issue that any irregularities arising out of an election must be dealt with through an election petition.
Correct.
It is interesting to note that the counsel for the chairman of the Elections Commission also said that the Constitution is superior to the order, and the order can't change what the Constitution says. The Constitution is the supreme law.
Yes, yes.
And the order doesn't affect that, and so GCOM's duty is only to conduct elections, and the court has the exclusive power to determine what whether there are irregularities or not in an election petition. So she did say that. That was the nature of her submissions. So the case is still going on. It hasn't come to an end yet. So I don't know what's going to happen, when they're going to fix it for decision and so on.
Correct. Well, thank you for that, Kamal. But coming back to one of the primary matters in this case here, I would have heard some of the clips as well, and the truth is that when they use the term irregularity, it does not point to a fact of a fraud. It's an allegation or it's an irregularity that needs to be investigated. And I think last week, a couple days ago when you were on, we had discussed this, that all of these allegations, and this is why you need an election petition to now go investigate, right?
Of course, anybody can say that there is an irregularity. How do we know what is an irregularity, whether it is true or not true? You have to put somebody in the witness box and you have to have their evidence. They say X, Y, and Z, and then you cross-examine them and you have other evidence. So this is not something that somebody can say, oh, there is an irregularity and therefore we must do so and so. You have to have evidence. The evidence has to be interrogated and you have to arrive at the end of it. A judge has to determine whether the evidence is believable or not. And that is what judges do. That is the daily job of a judge, listen to evidence of witnesses and determine where the truth lies, to assess and the evidence. That's not the function. First of all, the Elections Commission doesn't have the resources to do that, and it simply is not the function of Elections Commission to do that. And how would they, in a case, all of the parties have the opportunity to put forward the evidence, and all of the evidence is determined at the same time. Now, where is the competing evidence? How do we know?
That's
You
right.
can't do this by through the Elections Commission.
Correct. And at the same time, too, I wish to ask your opinion on this. It is clear that in those recount, in the procedures there, Leonard and Kamal, in those procedures, the entire process was run by GCOM. Not one GCOM staff, not even Lowenfield, during these recount, stopped the process and said, this is irregularity, this is fraud, and we cannot continue. In other words, GCOM's officers continue to carry on the recount. So for Mr. Lowenfield to, at the end of the process, say, well, one side made accusations, but he has been supervising it. GCOM has been supervising it. GCOM, in its own, on its own grounds, did not point or did not stop. In fact, Kamal, GCOM's employees signed on to the statement of recounts and the certificates of tabulation.
Well, not only that, Yog, in addition to that, the only observer that we have had to scrutinize this recount was CARICOM. I think the OAS was there, but I'm not sure how many observers they had and so on. Carter Center was not permitted to come out. So the only strong body that we had there, CARICOM, said that the recount is fine and should be used. And the OAS also said that the government, there should be a transition based on the recount results. So the OAS has said that they believe that the recount is something which should be used.
Correct. So, and on that note, I wish to ask you something else. I mean, in your general practice of law, isn't it odd that now Mr. Lowenfield is kind of alluding that GCOM can investigate itself? Isn't that why there is a separation of powers, why the High Court is identified? Because GCOM cannot, I mean, by all means, you cannot investigate yourself. You have to have an external party to do that.
I would say that you can look at it, you can distinguish two instances. In the first instance, you have the fraud of an employee of GCOM, Mr. Claremont Mingo, I believe his name is, issuing declarations based on numbers that he did not get from the statements of poll. I think that is clearly established now. That is established beyond reasonable doubt now. So on the one hand, you have that situation, and on the other hand, you have the validity of votes. Now, in the first instance, I believe that they can investigate that. This is their employee doing something, doing something which is not authorized by law, not using the statements of poll to get the results. And on the other hand, how do we determine whether votes are valid or not valid? These ballots came out of the boxes through a process run by GCOM. GCOM has measures put in place for the situation when a voter comes into the polling station. The voter has to show his ID card. If he doesn't have an ID card, he does an oath of identity and so on. So there are systems in place. How does GCOM determine this sort of evidence?
Correct.
To say that the votes are not valid, but they can investigate Mr. Mingo.
Correct. Let me put a hypothetical scenario here. So let's take a bank. When an employee, Leonard, this is to you. When an employee commits or is guilty of malfeasance, or internal fraud in the bank investigates that employee because it's an employee, it's an internal matter. But when there is a matter with the bank trying to skim off your accounts, or if there is a bank that would try to interfere with with clients' accounts and try to do things with a wider cross section, then it becomes a public mischief, it becomes a public fraud, and that's how the police and the Bank of Guyana, external agencies get involved. And to Kamal's point here, Leonard, I don't know whether Kamal would bring in a better example than I did, but it shows a difference between investigating what wrongdoing Mingo did as an employee versus a claim of wrongdoing by GCOM to the people of this country. And of course, the people of this country has to get their that matter taken to the court and dealt with by the court. Because, put it this way, if the allegations of fraud are true, right, can GCOM declare to itself that we defrauded the people of Guyana? I mean, isn't that like, it's a non-issue. It's never going to happen.
Well, it's a good question, Yog, and that has been one of the biggest questions as to what exactly should be in an elections petition. And I think the lawyers have been coming here and yourself and so been talking about what should be in it. And the CARICOM and everybody has made it clear what the recount results are, what they should do with that. The GCOM chair has waded in, and she has told the court to throw out the case because this is a matter, as far as she's concerned, the recount results is what's supposed to be before her, so she could get on with it. But with regards to that analogy that you brought up with the bank, that is something that maybe the council could probably talk about. But it is interesting that what Lowenfield would have done. I think I read something that the chairperson would have done in the interview with the media house, talking about how she dealt with that entire issue with Lowenfield. And when he came to her and says he heard about the court case being filed, and then by the time they were talking, then the marshals arrived to serve him in her office. So they were following them around maybe, and he got served while he was in her office. So he left his office in one part of Kingston, went over to the secretariat, and that is where he would have been she would have been served. So it's interesting, but I agree with you. It cannot investigate itself.
Correct. But let me just remind everybody, Mingo continues to be in the employ of GCOM as of now. Kamal, I want to put this to you because it was an interesting piece that came out. I think one of the justices, I can't really say who it was, but I believe it was the Madam Justice that said to Mr. Mendez that, Mr. Mendez, how come the irregularities that led to the recount have an impact, but not the irregularities emerging from the recount? And I think the opinion posited there was that it is not one and the same. Here it is an allegation of irregularity or something to that effect. Over to you, Kamal.
I think he basically told her that you have to go to the election petition court. That is, he said that the court did not have, this court in this case, did not have the jurisdiction to concern itself with irregularities, any sort of irregularities arising out of elections. Now, you can look at it like this. The irregularities that led to the recount were not really the subject of whether the court could determine anything in that case. What that last case, Ulita Moore, was about was whether the recount was lawful or not. So it was not whether you could determine.
Right.
The question didn't come up in court about irregularities. The question came up in court about the lawfulness of the recount. So, similarly, in this case, irregularities are for an election petition court to determine whether or not election results have a difficulty or problem.
And let me just say this, see whether you agree. In the first instance, when the stakeholders would have gone to the court and Madam Roxanne George got involved, it was a matter of of them asking the court to tell Mingo and tell GCOM, here is how you interpret a part of the Constitution. Here is how you interpret 84.2, right? Or it was 84.1 and 2.
Yes, it was the Representation of the People Act. The allegation was that Mr. Mingo was not complying with the provisions of the Representation of the People Act. And the Chief Justice said, Mr. Mingo, you must comply with the sections of the Representation of the People Act.
Correct.
So you can see your declaration.
So Kamal, for Madam Justice to even say that how come irregularities that led to the recount have an impact, but not irregularities emerging, isn't that therefore a mischievous statement? I mean, this is just, I know Kamal cannot qualify that statement. This is from a private citizen saying so, because there was never an instance where the court would have been approached as part or to argue a matter of irregularity per se. Leonard, so in the first case, it was to ask the court to help translate or interpret the Representation of the People Act 84.2. And in the second Ulita Moore case, it was to ask the court whether GCOM can do a recount or not. And in this case, now it is a matter of irregularity. So for her to say this is not necessarily a reflection of the truth, is it?
Well, I would say maybe she's just trying to understand the context. Maybe she doesn't have a firm view on it, so maybe she wants Mr. Mendez's view on this issue.
I can see why you are the lawyer and Leonard and I.
Because we don't know what
it's something mischievous.
I know, because you might end up in front of this judge one day. But that's joking aside. I mean, look, the truth is that as a population we are seeing, and Leonard, the reason I raise that is a number of persons have already captured that quotation and are circulating as a new narrative now that, Madam Justice asked it. So I just wanted to ensure that we gave that clarification. But thank you for that. Thank you for that, Kamal. I want to come back quickly, Kamal, to...
if I can just add that I know that the CARICOM report is before the court, so that should also give an answer to Her Honor as to irregularities, if she still has the answer. Of course, the case before the court by the PVP and ANOG and TCI, I believe, is that the court has no jurisdiction to determine this case at all.
Mm-hmm.
But just in case the court had any doubts, a piece of evidence before the court is the CARICOM report.
But that's critical, right.
Of course. And let me just give give some praises, Leonard. In this case, it was a matter where private citizens would have taken action against GCOM and Lowenfield and all of that. And let me give some praises to Shaz and his team and Rhonda Lam and her team, and all of the new parties have all joined, gone to the court case and presented themselves and asked to be a part of the proceedings. And Kamal, the reason I wanted to say this is that I firmly believe if this was a matter of the PPP and PNC, this election would have long been stolen and there was nothing anybody could have done about it. But the truth is that the new party stepped up to the plate. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you that as of March 2nd, the new parties knew that they did not earn your favor, they did not earn your votes in any significant way at all. Yet, without any incentive then, they still continue to champion the rights of the electorate right through that recount and even now in court. And that alone, Leonard, that speaks volumes as to how this country can really emerge and that there is a future that we can all enjoy because leaders are stepping forward regardless whether there is anything in it for them or not.
They're the stars of the soap opera.
Well, yeah, but talking about that, Leonard, the sad thing, Kamal, I know I can't put you on a spot here, but the sad thing is, Leonard, that, an elections petition will eventually be filed. We know that's what is behind everything here, and they just want to delay the declaration, which you and I will get into when we have allowed counsel to leave, because we don't want to get counsel involved in those speculations. But the truth is that, Kamal, this thing doesn't seem to be over because we don't know what else is awaiting us.
There are just two more stages left. The advice from the Chief Elections Officer and the declaration from the chairman. So, and then that is the end of it. When we will get to those two stages, we don't know.
And the chairman made an additional statement this morning, right? The chairman made an additional statement outlining that, well, I don't know if there's a chairman, but I would think so, outlining that, she had to call Leonard. I think one of the statements I read is that Lowenfield said he was advised of receiving of a notice that would be filed. When she herself checked that notice, it lacked a hearing date, and I think that's a critical part of a notice before you can pay heed to it. Kamal can correct me if I'm wrong.
Let me do a clarification there, Yog. My apologies. This press release is coming from the Office of the Chief Elections Officer. It was issued by GCOM, but it's coming from the Chief Election Officer, and the headline for that is Chief Election Officer did not submit report based on the advice of the chairperson, and I could quickly read that, so maybe you could shed some light. It would be remiss of the GCOM Secretariat not to provide clarity on the reason why the Chief Election Officer, Kate Lowenfield, did not submit the national recount of GRE 2020 results reported to Chairperson Justice Claudette Singh on 18th of June 2020. Contrary to numerous articles and opinions published in the media and social platforms, the CEO, Kate Lowenfield, has completed the report and was prepared to submit same to the chairperson by 1300 hours on 18th of June 2020. However, before he could have done so, he was served by court marshals with a notice of motion, which was filed in the Court of Appeal. In light of the foregoing, the CEO visited the office of the chairperson with his report and a notice of motion. It was then that Justice Singh indicated that she was also served with the said document and explained that as a former officer of the court, she could not disregard the notice of motion. As a consequence, the CEO's report was not submitted to the chairperson at that time. Full stop.
Kamal, a motion that lacks completeness. Is it regular that somebody could stop doing what they're doing if they? Is it regular that marshals would serve such an incomplete motion in the first place, and that Mr. Gildarie could stop doing whatever he's doing if he's told or served with an incomplete motion?
Well, the hearing date should be on it. It should be. We have a very manual system in our courts. So they write it in ink. You file it without the hearing date, and they write it in ink. I suppose there was great urgency because the report was due at 1 o'clock, and so maybe that was left out. When you get legal documents, unless you have an injunction, you are not stopped from doing what you're doing. I think we went through this.
Yes, we did. Thank
last time I was here. You're not prevented from doing what you're doing. Unless you have an order of court which says quite clearly and unambiguously, you must stop doing whatever it is you're doing, which is an injunction or a conservatory order when the Constitution is concerned.
Yes.
I mean, you can be prudent if you want, but this is such an important issue, such a time-sensitive issue. If you're not stopped from doing what you are required by law to do, surely you should do it.
Correct. And that being said to Leonard, I mean, I'm not even going to ask counsel to pronounce it because Madam Chairman has always preferred to be cautious. And being a former judge, she's always cautious when it comes to wanting to step on the toes of the court. In fact, her most recent press release would have said she's not a court and GCOM is not a court. And so one could appreciate where she's coming from, Leonard. But counsel, thank you so much for that update. And we certainly, if there's anything else, please feel free to join us. We look forward to it. But before we let you go, on behalf of all of our viewers and listeners, in case we don't get to talk tomorrow, happy Father's Day, sir.
Thank you. My first Father's Day. My daughter's just over 6 months.
Ah, wonderful. And I must tell you this, Leonard. We lost Pagua. We lost Easter.
Yes.
We lost Mother's Day. We lost May Day.
We lost Father's Day.
Father's Day. Man, come on. And these elections have trampled on everything over these 809 days. Everything has been lost. And we lost couple of billions of dollars that the Treasury has been drained. But that's for you, Leonard. That's not for Council.
Yeah, don't put the man in a position, man. You got to do better than that.
Council, I have a question for you. And I wish to seek your pro bono advice. If Mr. Gildarie is appointed as a board director and his term of life as a board member ends and the government does not renew it, can he still act? Should he still act, or should he seek legal advice first before taking action, especially if it's material action of material value?
He should not act, and if he wants to act, he should seek legal advice. Similar situation happened with the Judicial Service Commission, the commission which appoints judges. The life expired, and there's no Judicial Service Commission. Hasn't been for a number of years, so no judges can be appointed, and they haven't tried to act to appoint judges using the last commission. They know that there is no commission. So, right. And this might be replicated all across the country in different boards and bodies.
Correct.
They expire and they're not reappointed. They're finished.
That's right. Thank you so much, Councillor. It's been a pleasure to have you once again. Leonard, any more questions?
Thank you for having me.
No, as usual. Thank you very much, Councillor. And again, we echo a good Father's Day to you. I hope that you're staying up late at night. I've gone through that and changing diapers and things like that. I know it's a joy of fatherhood.
Yes, a lot of joy.
When I sent him congratulations after baby came, I did wish him a lot of sleepless nights.
You did that? Yes.
I did. Because it's reality, Yes. So. Thank you, Kamal. It's been good to have you.
Thanks, gentlemen. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Okay.
Yeah, bye-bye.
So in the meantime, if you've now joined us, elections COVID-19 watch here on Kaito Radio 99.1, 99.5. You can also get us on Kaito Radio on Facebook, on YouTube, or Kaito News online. And if you're joining us also now and you missed out, we are bringing you updates as it comes from the Guyana Court of Appeal, where a case is ongoing. The case has a motion was filed to stop Keith Lowenfield, the Chief Elections Officer, from tendering a report on the declaration, the Recon declarations, the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission, Justice Claudette Singh. And so that case is happening. It should be concluded today, and then the court is going to be telling the people of Guyana when it's going to render its decision. We could expect a decision as early as tomorrow because the court has seen it fit to hold that court case today. It appears from all indications that the court is very much aware of how important this case is and therefore time constraints. I think representatives of the parties in the case from the different political parties which would have contested the elections, they would have been given about half an hour to speak. Yog, do we know whether they were given, they adhered to those time limits?
Yes, they were reminded 5 minutes before their time was up that they got 5 minutes more to go. So yes, the court tried to steer them and keep them in check.
Do we have any indication also, Yog, how many lawyers are going to be speaking?
No, I think what's going to happen, what I'm hoping is that the lead counsels alone are going to make their oral presentations. Don't forget that the oral exchanges are merely or are nothing new or nothing outside of what their written presentations or written submissions would have been. And also we got to remember that the questions that the court would be asking counsel from any side would be to seek clarification from what would have been in the written presentations.
Absolutely. And Yog, we are back to this. I think let's go to what Dominic Gaskin, a former Minister of Business, an executive within the Alliance for Change, which is the other partner with APNU, which formed the coalition. And you would have known that APNU had several parties under its umbrella, including one of them was the Justice for All Party, another one would be the Working People's Alliance. Those two are critical, because when it comes to the Justice for All Party, the first thing that we would have seen late last evening was a statement issued by the Justice for All Party. It is conceding very strong language there that is coming from the founders, Sabri Prasad and C.N. Sharma, that the coalition should concede, that they should swear in Irfan Ali. And then on the other side, two statements there that is coming, one of them from Comrade Ramzatan. He would have met yesterday reportedly with his department heads. You know, he was a former or the caretaker minister with a responsibility for public security, and under him would have been the different departments, including the police. And so he would have met with them, and he would have told them that, you know, we're preparing to go this direction. There is a significant lead by the opposition of about 15,000 or so. I think there's a tape that has been making its rounds. So he is the leader of the Alliance for Change, Yog. And for him to have been saying that it is the walls, somebody says the walls are closing in now on the coalition. And then, of course, you see that statement coming from one of his executive members of his own party as well. I can no longer wait quietly and politely while a country gets hijacked, ridiculed, and torn apart. And he is called in Lowenfield, or he called Lowenfield's report devious. And maybe if you missed his statement, I could probably just quickly just go to the end of it. Let me see. All of this, and let me just read it quickly, Yog, because it is important that a coalition party, the son-in-law of the president, David Granger, is saying this. And he says, all of this leads me to a very uncomfortable conclusion. The APNO AFC has no intention of relinquishing control of government 5 years after winning an election and gaining office with a fair amount of goodwill. My apologies. What did I do there? Let me go back. 1 second. Yes, I'm back with that. 1 second. So I'm trying to get back the statement here from Dominique Gaskin, and he would have said here, Yog, let me just scroll down here.
But critical, while you're finding that part, critical in it is his number 2. He enumerated certain points there. And he said clearly, supporters of the APNO AFC were misled into believing that the coalition had won the election. I mean, you cannot be clearer than that.
Absolutely. And you would recall that back in the early days after the elections, I think it was Timothy Jonas standing in front of Ashman's. After he would have suddenly burst into the spotlight, all Guyana took notice of him as leader of one of the smaller party. And he would have said, what do you say to the supporters of both parties? And he said, so some people standing across the road there, I think that was by the Sylvie's building. And he said, what do you tell them? They have been told that they have won the elections. And on the other side, he was talking with the People's Progressive Party. What do you say to them that they've been told also? So, you know, people have been told that you won the elections. The leaders of the party told them that. So I think that is what he's saying.
That continues up to today, you know. This morning, unfortunately, I heard 3 of the political operatives speaking about it. And it's ridiculous to hear their excuses. I mean, I wish to remind everyone, there has been allegations of fraud and allegations of irregularity. No proof has been tendered. No proof were tendered. Kaitier News would have rubbished the allegations of so-called immigrant voters. And other people would have rubbished all their claims of dead persons and so forth. And case in point, look, Mr. Dave Kisoon, he is in court today as part of the team of legal luminaries there, Leonard. He is in court today, and he was queried by his name, his serial number was one of those identified by APNO AFC as not being in the country but voted. So when you get down to the investigation, which the courts have to do. Let them man up and go with an elections petition to the court. Don't try to thwart the will of the electorate now. But to your point, yes, I mean, Dominic Gaskin said, my message to my colleagues and
Right.
simple. It's simple. And you want to read the simple message there, please?
No one elected us to remain in office forever. There's no reasonable basis on which you can claim to have won more votes than the PPPC in this election. Level with your supporters and start directing your energies towards becoming a credible opposition party in time for 2025. Above all, try to regain the trust of the swing voter. You will never win another election without their support. Full stop. Son-in-law of the president. It is very, very strong words. Very strong words. And
correct. I must tell you, Leonard, that my latest information is that Mr. Ramkarran is expected to be making a statement later today in which there is a narrative being pushed that he is going to debunk everything in that audio clip that that you guys would have reported in the newspapers. So it would be interesting to see what he says. And I am aware that there has been some allegations made about Cambridge Analytica and a couple other companies, and allegations have been made that President Donald Ramatar, former President Donald Ramatar, would have employed these people. So I have sent a note to ask President Ramatar to join us in the immediate future to talk about this and whether what he has to say about those accusations. And certainly, we are going to put him in the hot seat, and the gentleman will speak as to how we think. But I want to say this, Leonard, if I may. Ladies and gentlemen, I noticed that one of our viewers, one of our sisters, Zinira Muhammad, would have asked us, and this is a very decent and interesting perspective, Leonard, that, how do we address these people that are making such racist remarks and inciting violence in Guyana, persons from overseas and local? And I want to remind everyone that there is no one side that has to be blamed here. There are persons from all sides that has been making racist, stupid, silly, crazy remarks. I know that on my Facebook page, I have called them out. Whenever somebody forwarded it to me, I have called them out until I realized, ladies and gentlemen, that there are some mischievous persons that were creating false profiles, which they are using to now send it to me to say, hey, look, so-and-so did this, but it was a false profile. Because when you go check their page, there's nothing there. So the mischief is very clear. And I might appeal to everybody, don't share a racist post. Don't pay heed to it. If you ignore the racists, guess what? They would fade into insignificance. And that is what we have to do with them.
Absolutely. And Yog, I must read to you, I think if you've missed it also, the Justice for All party, you would recall that as part of the coalition, they would have gotten a ministerial position. Jaipal Sharma would have been that minister. For this past election, the March 2nd elections, he would have shifted over as a candidate for the coalition and not representing, for the APNU, and not representing the Justice for All party. Excuse me. But in his statement last evening from Chandranarayan Sharma and Savitri Sharma, I'm appealing to the persons who are determined in delaying the process of a declaration. It has been an exhausting 108 days for all the sons and daughters of this nation. Enough is enough, I say. It is time for Guyana to move on. The people of this country are starving and suffering due to unemployment caused by the pandemic. The country needs its government to make decisions. This is a time we must be strong and stand together. I simply cannot remain silent on this any longer. My love for this country is unwavering. Whether we stand on the side of the majority or the side of the minority, we are all Guyanese. The Justice for All party will continue to represent and serve thousands of the poor and voiceless Guyanese, and will work tirelessly to ensure the prosperity of Guyana always. And that was the concession, the conceding statement that came from CN Sharma. So Yog, in the meantime, while we are doing that, we will remind you that something is happening in Region 1 there. 11 teachers has been tested positive for COVID-19. Brazil, with the second country, has gone, I think it's the 50,000 mark when it comes to deaths in Brazil. Their indigenous communities are being hard hit. They've gone past the million, 1 million persons have been infected in that neighboring country. The second country in the world with the most cases after the United States of America. These are things to keep at the back of our head when we're talking about COVID-19 watch. We would like you to call us in and tell us what has been your experience registering for assistance through the Civil Defense Commission and the Ministry of Social Protection. I think there's a form. Last thing that we were told that about 8,000 persons or applications would have been made to the Ministry of Social Protection for help. We have not been told whether those applications has been fully processed, and if so, how many families will be getting help. We have been trying to get some answers in vain. So, Yog, I think without further ado, if there's nothing else that you want to add at this point in time, 226-7453, 226-7453. We're going to go to the people of Guyana, our very faithful listeners and viewers, and you could also text us on 62222. You send your WhatsApp there, or just text us on WhatsApp, or text us normally 62222 or 226-7453. I think there's already a call online. Yes, good afternoon, calling you on the air.
Hi, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, I would like to know if this case is successful at the Court of Appeal. But what is next? What will happen after that? Do we go to the CCG, or what really will happen after that? And concerning this long amount of days that we are still in and we didn't get a result, I think we should put something like in our constitution or something that any party in the future to attempt something like this, they must be penalized by not able to run in future election, or maybe one or two future election. They must be penalized to stop anyone from trying this again in the future. So I hope you guys could answer my first question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it was, before I give it to my co-host, it was said over in the past, over and over by different lawyers. It isn't that we don't have the laws, but how do you deal with somebody if you have them in the house and you have all the security cameras and everything, and if they're going to turn off the security camera, or very blatantly stand in front of the security camera and pick up your stuff or steal from you, what are you going to do then? Because they are in your house. So it is the matter of dealing with that issue. We probably got to continue trying, but I hand you over to Yog. Maybe you could attempt.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to add to the point you made there, Leonard, that yes, there are rules, there are laws, there are regulations, and if people choose, if they purposely decided to act outside of those rules, it's another matter. I mean, case in point is that we have received so much complaints that it was Mr. Mingo and his deputy that instructed those 40-odd polling stations to not put the documents in the boxes. So, the one side, Apno FC, don't want to hear about this at all. And we are saying if there is a problem, I am saying if there is a problem, and if that is one part of the problem, let's take it to an election petition, because I would love to know who are the people that the court will see that have really meddled in these elections and what we can do about them. But we need to investigate these things. The call is right from the perspective that it must be investigated and those who are guilty must be held responsible. And Leonard, To the other point as to, if this thing goes to the CCJ, there are two aspects that Mr. Ramkarran, Kamal Ramkarran, would have shared with us. One is that whether the court decides on a matter of jurisdiction, that this thing, there is no jurisdiction here, then on a matter of jurisdiction, it goes nowhere. If the court just throws it out after listening and say, look, we agree that we don't have jurisdiction. But that's one side. On the other side, we don't know what the decision is going to be, but either party, some lawyers have shared with us that their opinion is that this is it, exclusive jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, sorry, and this is it. It means you cannot go anywhere. Whereas some attorneys have also said, Kamal himself said, that, that law would have been in place when there was no superior court like the CCJ, and the CCJ that came on afterwards means that there can be something. The CCJ we know has been prone to act with great alacrity. We are at this stage and we don't know where the decision is going to go. And to that point too, Leonard, I want to just use this opportunity to remind everybody we are going to be live in room 592 tonight because we want to discuss tonight whatever would have happened at the entire day today, Leonard.
Yes, and it is indeed true, Yog. We will be going to that. There is going to be a lot of analysis there. I think we would have been speaking, at least one lawyer is going to be there. And I think we are trying to get some others to be able to give us blow-by-blow account and on the way forward, because it's going to be very clear as to when the court is going to make an announcement this afternoon after they would have heard the representatives, the lawyers, on a date for a decision for the court case. It could come as early as tomorrow. There's some who believe that this case is open and shut on, that it has no jurisdiction to listen to this matter, and therefore it's going to throw it out. So let us see. It could be over as early as tomorrow. If that being the case, then the way is open unless somebody decides they want to go to the CCJ for that declaration to be made. And so, Yog, the issue of GPL's $83 million truck, which could be picked up for less than $25 million, Kaisha News has it today. I was told that by officials within the Guyana Power and Light that last year our new board went into place. It's for 2 years, so there is a functioning board. GPL has indicated that it will issue a statement very shortly about this entire situation here. I would be very interested to know a couple of things, and I hope that they're addressing it. If you guys are listening, we want to know a couple of things like, did you guys advertise this contract here? Where did you advertise it? And when? And if this is normal, I understand that they did it on their website. They did do it in the newspaper, in the media. We're not sure. So we're waiting to see how their statement will address it. But there is a functioning board. It was appointed last year for a 2-year period. It expires next year. That's what we've been told. I think it's headed by Raul Lucas. I think that's what we're told. So let's see what happens from there. But at this point in time, there is another story that we're following. I think that you would be receiving in a very short while. That is last-minute transactions and so on. I think we would have seen some reports of at least one minister who lives in Essequibo. I'm not sure if you want to call it. I can't at this point in time. Packing up his belongings, and he's gone, taking it back to Essequibo. A very clear sign. He's an Alliance for Change official, a former minister, and he would have already gone. But there's some last-minute transactions here, which I think the Auditor General is also looking into, and there's some last-minute transactions. We understand also with some lands up the East Coast there, which are being hustling to be signed off, and so these are things that are developing as we speak right now. But I'm not sure if you would have been hearing the same thing.
Well, Leonard, look, it's very worrying what you say there. So, ladies and gentlemen, we all would have been agonizing that, okay, APNU AFC lost these elections. APNU AFC knew that they lost these elections. Why the delay? Why the delay? And with each passing day, we are seeing why, because there are a few transactions probably that's left to be completed and closed off. And I would want to urge, Leonard, people need to realize there is no legitimate transaction that should be acceptable after March 2nd. You lost these elections. There ought to have been another government in place. You're squatting in office, Mr. Granger, and your officers are taking possession of state lands and taking possession of properties and and buying, Leonard, let me just say this. I want to go back to the GPL thing because, if a board is supposed to be made up of superior people with superior intellect and intelligence. Mm-hmm. And you as a board, you see these elections are over. Let's look at a number of companies, Leonard. There is a difference, viewers and listeners, between capital expenditure and routine expenditure. And GPL at this stage decided it was going to spend $600 million to buy 8 trucks, right? Rather than put it into maintenance or something and divide that $600 million, Leonard, into 3 years of contracting out and let a private or let somebody buy those trucks, own them, and hire them or rent them out to GPL. I mean, there are a number of ways you can do this, and it would be interesting to see GPL's statement on this, but I do not buy the notion that, okay, you are a board and your life is extended for another year, but these elections have happened. What will it cost you? What would it have cost GPL board to say, let's wait for another month? Let's wait for another month, knowing that this country is in a deep financial crisis.
Well,
so a lot of questions has to be answered.
Yes, and I think let us see what the statement says and what they've come up with, and so we take it from there. And Yog, in the meantime, we will continue to bring the people of Guyana updates from the court. I think there's another caller online. Yes, good afternoon, caller.
Hi, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
There is something that I would like to know if it's possible.
Yes.
Is it possible that when the new government, before they take over, is it possible that somebody in the financial position in Guyana could say to us, the Guyanese people, exactly what is our financial position, whether we got or we don't have, and how much we have if we do have? Secondly, I would like to advise the government in comment that on the day that they're going to go to the various ministry and state house and office of the president, I would like them, if it is possible, to take along all the media houses to go in and see the condition that the ministers themselves, not the whole ministry, the minister office itself, so the nation could see, so that if later on people are saying nobody can say that he was lying or he wasn't lying. Because I think that is very important, because it won't surprise me if here next couple of morning the government of the day is saying that, no, when we left the country it had so much billion and it had so much trillion. Because we reach a stage now where we cannot trust this government anymore. I mean, here you guys talking, and Mr. Abacus and everybody's talking for the last 5 days or 6 days. The president has been moving out peace from the state house. The minister of health had a farewell token. So, if this is truth, and it has to be truth because nobody denied it up to now. So why are you still telling people you win the election and you want to move out from the office? Gildarie, looking forward for your response on this.
Well, the first thing, I think the people of Guyana, as citizens, people who would have casted a vote, they have a right to know how their monies are being spent. And the sooner we understand, Yog, that we have that power, that we are the ones, we are the employees of the representative, the politicians, the ministers, whoever else is there in the office, is a better way to understand that our wealth, everything that is out there, the oil that is out there, the gold is in our back dam, the forest, it all belongs to us. And therefore, the people that are there when you come into our country do not own the concessions. We have a right to demand to know how much money we making. What is it that you went into office? What is it that you would have done there? When you left, we bought 5 cars during the tenure. Where are the cars? Where are the BMWs? Where is the Lexus? Where is the minibus? We want to know those things. When you had 5 computers when you were there, what did you do with it? Did you remove it? Is it yours to remove? Of course, there are inventories being done and records being kept. So I think the Auditor General would have his work cut out for him. And that is normal routine work that the Audit Office of Guyana would have to go through. But you're right. I think the caller is right when it comes to having the people a blow-by-blow account to what would have been found when this new government gets into office. Don't forget that when the other government went into office in 2015, we heard right away that a couple of officials within the People's Progressive Party would have gone with BMWs. Some of it would have disappeared. They found it like 2-3 years later. They would have returned it. Some of them would have been returned right away. I think even one minister would have been pulled in to find out what she would have done with a BMW. I think it was an X1 Jeep, or something like that. So Yog, the call is right on target with that one there. How does a new government account for what it inherits? Is it norm that they would tell the people, or is it that they do an audit? What happens?
Well, look, the caller has a great point here. From the perspective of the new or the incoming government putting things in place to ensure that there is a public flow of information, we certainly hope so. I must say that the PPP has not necessarily been, in the past, they have not necessarily been transparent in a lot of instances, and the press would have to have hounded them over and over and release information, and then they would react to the information released rather than release it themselves. So the APNU AFC PNC government has shown no different. To the caller's order point, he started off saying something that made me think, and let me say this, Leonard. Leonard, when last have you heard any of the PNC people, any of the APNU people say anymore that they have won these elections? They're not claiming they win, you know. No more. You show me a clip. They are not saying they have won these elections anymore. They have thrown that out of the window. What they are now saying is that there's so much irregularities that they insist that that Lowenfield cannot, the chairman cannot make a declaration. So they're not saying they won. They know they lose, and they stop with that piece of statement. Now, so here it is that a set of persons who knew they lost are coming up with one thing after another, Leonard. Meanwhile, we are hearing all of these things about lands, parcels of lands. We are hearing about vehicles. We are hearing about duty-free concessions. We are hearing all of these things. And like that call, I certainly hope that the PPP government must realize that they need to, first of all, change the head of SOCU and SARA and all of these agencies, and have an independent person run them, and have them report not to the government or the president, which is what it is, but somehow or the other politics is it, and investigate all of these white collar and blue collar crimes and return the people's assets to where they belong. All of these lands, Leonard, let me tell you, viewers and listeners this. Viewers and listeners, let me tell you all this. It's a government, any government of a country that knows their future infrastructure plans. And you, ladies and gentlemen, y'all got to keep your eyes open for these things. A government know their future infrastructure plans. If a government know that they're going to build a pond, they're going to dig a swimming pool, create a swimming pool in Diamond, they know that from their plans. And guess what? What we have seen happening is some of their supporters and some of their people, they run and they buy out all the lands in the area first, or they're given those lands. And so when the pool has to be built, then the price of the land becomes astronomical, and it becomes a matter of passing money. All of these things got to be investigated. And Leonard, finally, I'll say that with regards to the task force, you mentioned it, you mentioned the COVID thing. Nothing is being said about COVID. I mean, we're hearing of cases being increased, like you said, the 11 teachers. But here is another issue. You and I had broken this news to the public. $40 million were given to the CDC. When those $40 million were given by the international community, I think, I'm not saying that it is coincidental or not. I'm just telling you what, sorry? I'm just telling you what happened. So when the money was handed over to the CDC, on or around that time, the COVID task force itself changed its structure, and there became a new CEO or a CEO position was created for COVID task force. Now, my question would be, I want to know what happened to that $40 million. I want to know what it was spent on, because, Leonard, private citizens have spent far less money and reached far greater amounts of persons. Had all of these, look, our good friend Dave Lal and TCI and yours truly and you too, Leonard, and Glenn Lal and a lot of people, private citizens have been sharing out food and hampers and so forth. Tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, our organization will be sharing out. Brother Azar is sending another truckload of provisions, and I wish to say thanks to him. Those will be shared out this weekend. Now imagine, Leonard, $40 million. Shouldn't this country want to know what they did with it?
No, and that's a very valid question. We have a right to know. And I can tell you that I'm broke right now because we are doing our own thing to help our people. And yoga is not an easy thing. If you resources, I think you and I know that $1 million could go so very, very, very far away in helping. $40 million could do so many things for people that's out there. You know how many? I think about $10 million could feed about 5,000 families, 5,000 hampers. It could go for a very, very long way. So, this is something that's very, very hurtful when you hear money is being given and we're not sure what is happening. I could tell you the head of the COVID-19 task force is the Prime Minister, Moses Nagamootoo. And Moses Nagamootoo, we have not heard, we have not had a press conference. It started off very hot and sweaty, and then it was happening Thursday or Friday. I could see that Imran Khan, as the PRO for the Prime Minister, working, maybe he has a lot of benefits. He has been issuing a lot of statements to WhatsApp groups and so on. But we're not hearing anything about a press conference with the head of the COVID task force. We have not had a press conference in weeks now. We're just seeing every day that 12 people die. We're hearing 153 persons infected, 11 teachers, and that's coming from the Ministry of Health. Nothing from the task force and from the chairperson. But there is a couple of texts here. Good day, guys. It's my opinion that the court is dealing with a backdoor petition, since the matter now includes a hearing of submissions of the elections contestants instead of dealing with just Ms. David's attempt to stop the CEO's submission of the recount report itself, which would have been simple of the court to deal with. And the person wants to hear your comments, Yog. I think there's another one. I think there's another statement here. But go ahead while I find that statement. There's something here from the National Insurance Scheme, Yog, that has to do with workers. But you go ahead. The person is that statement. You heard what they have said?
Yeah, the person's right. This is a backdoor attempt to file an elections petition. And the court would have to see through that very, very quickly. Because I would wish to remind everyone, Madam Roxanne George, Chief Justice Roxanne George acting, when she was listening to that first case, when an appeal was made to her to advise Claremont Mingo, is it Claremont Mingo? I hope I got the name right. To advise Mingo, we know the Mingo part. When she was approached to advise Mingo to follow the section of the Representation of People Act, she took pains to tell all of the lawyers present, I am not going to tolerate anything that will even want to appear to look like an elections petition. That has to go to an election petition. There are many times she stopped the attorneys in their tracks when they were going down the wrong road. And she stuck to the interpretation of the relevant section in front of her. So this set, I mean, they have to look at what is in front of them, what is asked of them. And the truth is, Leonard, what is asked of them, Mendes has taken pains to point it out, is not something that the court can declare. The court cannot declare that these elections are annulled. The courts cannot overtake GCOM's role. So this is a delaying tactic, and the caller put it right. That person put it well put. That this is just a backdoor attempt to file an elections petition.
Yes, and Yog, I found the NIS statement here. This is to sugar workers who would be listening, looking at the program here today on Kaito Radio. The national, a few days back, the Guyana Agriculture and General Workers Union, GAU, would have issued a statement stating that NIS has decided to stop paying sugar workers the sickness and injury benefits. The NIS has come out today and says, please be advised that even though NIS is severely affected by COVID and had to reduce the working hours for its employees to accommodate the shift system, the scheme continues to honor its obligations by paying out millions in both sickness and medical benefits to employees of GAISUCO and other agencies. NIS has also offered relief through amnesty for employers who are unable to pay the interest. The NIS deems the article as mischievous, and this is coming from the Public Relations Department or officer of the NIS. So it's not true that they have stopped paying the sugar workers of the sickness and injury benefits, as is being alleged by GAU, the Union for Sugar Workers. I wanted to read that because I thought it's important that that the workers know that NIS say, no, we're going ahead and do that. It is very disheartening for sugar workers to hear that. And if you go into NIS and you're being told that, then it's not true. Go back to NIS, they have to pay you because that's what NIS is saying. Yog, we go to the lines. Good afternoon, caller, you're in the air.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
I would just like to make a statement before I speak. I would like all of us in Guyana to know, and I know that we all believe in God regardless of whatever religious body we follow. And the fact that you say you believe in God cannot make you hate or tell stones or say degrading words to another brother who looks different from you. We are all His creation. God created all of us. So we have to stop this thing of calling each other names and pulling each other down racially, whether on Facebook, whether on the phone, whether on the streets. It is not good. This country is a country of 6 nations. We all need to respect each other. We look different, but we're all the same. We created from the same creator. We may talk different, act different, but we're all from the same God. And finally, I'd like to say, when it comes to my pain, it's always been public officers operating like political operatives. And even though I had no proof before, other than my instincts, Mr. Lowenfield has shown his side and where he's leaning. While that may be good for some people, for me it's not right, because when you hold a public office, you need to be partisan. You can't take a side, you got to do your job. When it comes to the statement by GAU and this rebuttal by NIS, that's one of my sore points too. We have too many unions in this country. Unions traditionally represent the workers against the government. They don't be in party with the government. Most of our unions have tied up themselves with one side or the other, coming out, going in parliament to sit down, running on board. How can you represent the workers against somebody who you're in bed with? And that is what is wrong in this country. Police, soldier, the officers, courts, everybody takes a side. That is not, if you're talking about constitutional, that's not what our constitution is about. When you take those jobs, you're here to represent all of Guyana, not a political party. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, caller, and you too. Yog, we could not, I think the caller is right on point with that one there, with the NIS and what is happening. And you and I would have, I think 2015, this issue raised its head about public officers. I think it was one, I think it was, was it Roger Luncheon? And then I think it was Dr. Mahender Sharma. When you're in public office and you're sitting there holding on to these public official these positions, you cannot. A permanent secretary should not be on a list if you're of a political party for elections. They are serving the state. How could you, in a very equal way, treat and deal with issues? So you should not be. I think there are rules of engagement when it comes to how these people do it. At the end of the day, they are what they are: public servants. Servants being the key word there. You cannot hold those positions and do any other thing. In any case, I think it's in direct contradiction or contravention to what the contracts would be saying. Yog, do you know a little about that? I think there's the Public Service Commission, which also you would have to seek permission on before you do. You can't even leave the country if just like that. There are certain procedures that have to be followed before you just get up and you do certain things.
Correct. You're right. And with regards to the NIS statement, Leonard, I think, I would like to not point any fingers at either NIS or the union. There may be more to it than meets the eye. I don't think the union is going to want to create public mischief by pointing out something that is absolutely false. And maybe NIS might have been better positioned to call in the union and say, okay, bring all the complaints and let's see and let's talk about it. So I find it strange that a lot of these things are hitting like as if people trying to save face, and the background work that ought to have gone on is not going on. Maybe you and I over the next couple of days will hear from some of the workers themselves that might be agreed. To the caller's point about trade union, he's right. Trade unionism has lost its grounds in Guyana, but that is not now. That started since people ought to know and they ought to read. Go back and read what Joseph Polydor did in the 1980s. Joseph Polydor was the head of the TUC, and he married the trade union movement to the then Forbes Burnham government. And that created international impact. I mean, it became a laughing stock of the world. And thus, Leonard, many years later, people need to know this, many years later, there was a breakaway. So remember TUC, TUC was deemed to have been the umbrella body.
Right.
And many years later, the umbrella body, after continuously aligning themselves with the then PNC government, there was a breakaway FITUG faction.
Yes.
And so a number of trade unions are now with FITUG as opposed to the TUC. Thus nowadays you get two major rallies and all of that.
That's yes.
Now to the question that a lot of the workers, the caller has a point, but I think also, caller, that the way we look, one may want to look at it, you don't have to, is that sometimes the political parties may feel that, if you guys join us in our boardrooms, and if you guys join us in our strategy sessions, then we can have better dialogue and have representation from top down rather than bottom up. Gaisuku itself would have experimented with these things, Leonard, years ago, 20, 30 years ago. Gaisuku would have started Workers' Council, where it took representatives from every aspect of its work and made a workers' council that ought to have met and kind of be a middle ground between workers, between employees and employer, and solve problems as they arise. But obviously it was also aimed at diluting the impact of the trade union, and a whole set of things happened there. That might be a struggle and a discussion we have to have another day.
Absolutely.
But the caller is right. I mean, one has to re-examine how and what roles trade unions play, whether any at all. What we do know is that a lot of the trade unions do collect a hefty union dues. And when you look at some of the trade unions, some of them, not all, some of the trade unions, whenever they travel, and they travel often, they always travel first class, and they spend lots of money on their executives. So what about the wherewithal of the members?
Yes, absolutely. There you go. So if you're joining us now, it's Elections COVID-19 Watch on June the 20th, 2020. Thank you for joining us. 226-7453. And of course, let's see those messages on 62222, the WhatsApp, or otherwise you send it to us and let us be able to read them to you. Keep it short, sweet, within good taste, and we're going to listen to you. 226-7453, and we're talking elections 2020. If you're joining us now, we would tell you that there's a court session ongoing with elections 2020. The court, after hearing the representatives or the lawyers for the different political parties, it is going to announce the Court of Appeal in Kingston, and they're meeting via Zoom. The court, that is 3 judges. It is Justice Bassington Reynolds. Who are the other 2? Rishi Prasad, and I think there's that lady Yog.
Yes. But yeah, Leonard. But I think a lot of persons are concerned and have sent in messages that it is the same court indeed that listened to the numbers case, the 33, where the 33 is a majority over 32 out of 65. And it was the same court that had a split decision, a majority decision being made at 34 had to be an absolute majority. So yes, people are concerned that this court has shown in the past decisions that had to be corrected and changed by the CCJ. But ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say that, it's what courts do. They make a decision based on arguments presented to them, and then that's why you have a superior court, CCJ being the final.
Absolutely. 226-7453, there's a caller 9. Good afternoon, caller, you're on the air. Yes, good afternoon, caller, you're on the air.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I've been a faithful listener to your program, and I believe it is time that I share my views, especially coming from my involvement in the community. I'm a pastor. I've been a pastor for 31 years, and so this whole trouble that we're being faced with, especially the racism, the racial talks that we're hearing during this time, I would like to call on all Christians, wherever they are, to understand a few things. To understand, firstly, that God did not create different color tones. That God created, actually, different color tones, but God did not create race. He created diversity. And if we are going to be hating on each other because we are a different color tone, we got it all wrong. The Bible did not teach that. The Bible doesn't have anything that encourages racism, and I cannot understand how people can be going to church for years and how people can be talking about Christianity and still practicing and encouraging racial talk and racial behavior towards each other. And I believe it is what has been keeping our country down. And we see that this is not only affecting our country, it's affecting many countries around the world. It is said that where there is a deficit of knowledge and experience, we need to create opportunities of understanding. I love the thoughts of men who I hope people would respect. For example, Martin Luther King Jr., he says, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And people need to understand that. We're talking about the election and all that. We need to be representing justice and not injustice. Malcolm X says, "You can't separate peace from freedom because no one can be at peace unless he has freedom." And so this is what we should be representing and fighting for. Mahatma Gandhi says, "An eye for an eye makes the world blind." And the Lord Jesus Christ made it very, very clear in John 3:16 that for God so loved the world. And so, again, I'm calling on Christians to rise up and start speaking out that we should not be going against each other. We should be working on peace and harmony and togetherness, because the scripture is very clear that God loves the world, and so he died for everyone. And the great commission is to go into all the world and win everyone and love everyone and show empathy to everyone. And so I just trust that there would be a shift in the focus of Christians, even though we are not going to get politically involved, that we would start affecting the decisions and the behavior of people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jay. Caller, very uplifting words indeed. Yog.
Well said. I applaud that caller, and indeed, Leonard, viewers and listeners must realize that you and I would have started Room 592 and discussion programs by getting imams and pastors and pundits on our sessions to pray for this nation. So very good caller, and indeed, I want to endorse what he has said. There is no religion, there is no prophet, there is no religious teacher that has ever said, let us be conscious of our color. There is no color to God. So I don't know how we get so caught up in spreading hate rather than spread love. But, I don't want to preach. I thank the caller for coming on. Leonard, I just wish to bring something else to the fore. Ladies and gentlemen, this is 111 days. Today is 111 days since March 2nd, inclusive of March 2nd and today, of course. To all of you cricket lovers, if you remember the name Dickie Bird, you would know that there was a word that we used to describe when the same number repeated itself. So today it's 111. And Dickie Bird used to say when it's a number like that, you need to jump off the ground a little bit, keep both feet off the ground, even if it is for a millisecond. It was something that had become quite a laugh in cricket circles. But I just wanted to share that today is 111 days.
Yes, it is indeed true. But good words of upliftment. There's another caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Hello?
Yes.
The caller just told the pastor.
Yes.
He said that Gandhi, he quote from Gandhi, said that an eye for an eye. Gandhi never agitated that eye for an eye is Moses, I think. I think you did not listen to him. You should have correct him.
Yes, okay, that's the point. Thank you very much. Yog?
Yes, well, his quote, Gandhi would have used the words to say, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. And, you Google it and you see his name being ascribed to it. There may be others who would have said this, and, I'm not going to, it's not something to have contention over as to how these quotes are ascribed. We do know there's biblical, Vedic, and Islamic context also to that saying, in terms of, you can't solve violence with violence, and you can't, you can't just take repercussions out. But the message is taken. I think the message is taken that, we cannot hate each other, because you hate each other, you hate yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely, there, Yoga. And, the good thing, one of the good things that's come out as we come into let's hope, an end to this election saga, fiasco, soap opera, or whatever you want to call it. There's one thing that is coming out very, very clear, is that we have Guyanese people that are very much aware of what is happening in their country. They want to be involved. They're coming out more, they're becoming braver, courageous, even coming on talking about what they feel. They're even getting in tune with what is happening in different areas. They know the history. We're talking like that caller just now. Very much they're paying attention, so that's something that's very good. We need our people to be a little more vocal. This election just brought that to the fore, and let us see. The more we talk about it, I think we're going to come to solutions. Let us offer solutions. And if the politicians are paying attention, They should know that something is happening across this country, Yog. Something good is happening, and I think of all, in addition to what we've seen about the young politicians coming to the fore. I think the point was made a couple of nights back, and I see it's being carried now, that narrative. It was acknowledged that had the PPP been there alone in the recount center, without these smaller parties who had no incentives of those being there because they didn't really win anything. What we want as Guyanese people is that these people were there. The Ronda Lambs, the K and Zabours, and Shaz Ali and all of them that's there. Timothy Jonas, everybody that's come forward and they're talking, they're making their play. And so you have a guy, Guyana, that's there, that is all riled up in the moment in a very good way for a better man. They were agitating. Something good has come out of all of this. And I want to say thank you very much. We have listeners, viewers talking in a very mature. There may be one, two who's lost track a little. They're raising the other side of the story. All that is good. It's a democracy that we're talking about. But some very good things. And whichever way you twist it and turn it, whether you and I go in a different direction, the memories of this, the lessons that I would have learned too, because it is teaching me as I go along the way about our people in Guyana. Maybe one day we write a book. Maybe one day you write a book and include me and some of the caller, maybe this caller who's claiming he's a security guard. I think he's somebody else, but there's another caller online.
Before you go to caller,
yes.
Just good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, ma'am.
Now, Mr. Gildarie and Mr. Yog.
How you doing, ma'am?
All right, today is my birthday.
Your birthday? Happy birthday, then.
All right, here, listen to me attentively. I'm 74.
Yes.
Now, I've been listening to your program for months now since it started, day and night. And despite what is going on in this whole world, when Jesus walked the face of this earth, he prophesied wars, rumors of wars, pestilence, nations against nations. And we have lived to see that all that he prophesied is coming to pass. You know why? God created human to live a better life, decent life. He gave you guidance, the Bible, the Gita, and the Quran, to read it and to get a guide about your life. But people have turned to their own ways, the pleasures of the world, and they neglect God, and they live it wickedly and recklessly. And that is why, but Jesus prophesied in the last days, famine, shortage of food, pestilence, nations against nation, father against mother, mother against children, and we are living in the day that we see that it is coming to pass. So, I mean, we can only talk, but what Jesus prophesied, remember Bob Marley sang it, war in the east, war in the west, war downtown, everywhere you turn is war. You remember that song?
Yes.
Yeah, so what you see we are seeing, we cannot change it. We can only talk and try to, console people and things, but Jesus prophesied these things. And we live to see parents against children, children against parents, nation against... God make race, he make human. But we live in to see war, rumors of war, nation against nation. And this thing will get worse. It will get worse because people just turn their back from God and they're living their own life and doing what they feel is right. But God never created us to live that way. So whatever you all are doing, I compliment you for enlightening the people. I listen morning and night for the past 3 months. But the fact is, what Jesus said has to come to pass. Right? Mm-hmm. But y'all, I compliment y'all for enlightening the people and things, but Jesus prophesied these things are going to happen. Anyway, you have a good evening, enjoy your day, and continue the good work, but the word of God got to come to pass.
Man, I love you, and have a pleasant rest of the birthday.
I am
from Yoga myself, 74.
And I am a Christian.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Bingo is a Christian.
You want to go there, man?
But the word of God says, not everybody that had a large shall enter into the kingdom.
Yes.
He looks at your heart.
Thank you very much, dear ma'am. A pleasant rest of the birthday to her, dear. And Yog, I think there's some breaking news, and I can't get a confirmation. 1:30 on Monday. Yes, please go ahead, Yog.
No, that was what I was trying to tell you before the caller came in. According to Mr. Sesban Raj's release, all submissions are in, and the decision will be handed on Monday at 1:30 p.m.
Okay, so let us do some wraps here, Yog. Elections, COVID-19 watch here on Kaito Radio 99.1, 99.5. We're coming to you right across the coast of Guyana and all the way up the East Bank there, from the Pomeroon, right up the Pomeroon. Hello there, Pomeroon. On the Essequibo Coast, hello there, all the way to Wayaka Lake Mainstay area. Hello to you people. Crabwood Creek, how you doing? Westwood Beach, Diamond, Elizabeth Sunich, how you doing? I want to say good day, and of course all our people there right in New York, in Canada, Norway, Mexico, wherever you join us, St. Lucia in the house, of course Brazil, Suriname. And so we have been bringing you elections, COVID-19. There's a court case that was ongoing to stop Keith Lowenfield from tendering that report, that declarations report, so that the commission, the Guyana Elections Commission, could go ahead and make a declarations, paving the way for the swearing in of a new president and the formation of a government and the convening of a new parliament. So the court has decided, after listening to representatives of the various political parties, to have a decision rendered on Monday, I think 1:30 on Monday. So we were hoping it would have been done tomorrow, but the court has seen it fit to hold the case over on a Saturday, and it is going to make a ruling on Monday. So it is going to, we're going to pay very close attention to that ruling. Turns and twists since March the 2nd, 111 days. Today it's going to be 112 days since the March the 2nd elections. Yog, what are we likely to see on Monday? Let's look at some. I know that we would have been talking to lawyers and so, a couple of scenarios to be played out here. What are we looking at? And Room 592 is going to be looking at this evening too.
Well, let's relook at that, because I was just sending you some messages there, because a couple of things, Leonard, viewers and listeners. Obviously, the court has gotten all the submissions in. What's going to happen? A couple of things that I think is going to happen on Monday is that the court is going to have its decision that will either see a declaration being made immediately or within short order, or it's going to go to the CCJ. I think also what's been happening is that the lawyers on both sides would know how this is going. Excuse me. Leonard, the truth is that at this stage, neither you or I, and I don't think any lawyer can now say more than we would have already said, or more than was already said. What is going to happen now between now and Monday, it will be interesting to see the following. Justice for All Party has pulled out of ACNO AFC. The coalition has lost a critical member, right? That's one. Two, religious communities are already stepping out and speaking out. So last night, for example, and today Kaito News carried it, where the Center for Interreligious Dialogue has already issued a statement demanding that Granger concede. So the religious communities are all speaking out. We are seeing civil society one by one standing up and calling on the president to concede. So the truth is, Leonard, I wish to say this very clearly, regardless of what transpires here, Granger could still say, listen, because remember, they know they have lost these elections. They're not saying they win anymore. They are not saying they have won anymore. All they are saying is they wish somebody could pull a rabbit out of the hat and some abracadabra could happen and declare these elections null and void. They want to delay and delay and delay the declaration until all the transactions are completed. And the press has to keep tabs of it, see which trucks are moving where, what is going where, let's keep tabs of the official gazette, what's happening, what properties are being transferred, what state assets are being moved out. because we know what happened the last time and we cannot allow things like this to continue to happen. So those are the kind of things that I think the next 2 days that we got to be careful about. We have heard that Mr. Ramkarran seemed to be making some statement at about, well, this evening. You have said that GPL is going to make a statement maybe later today or tomorrow, whenever it pleases them, about the trucks they have bought. So all of those things are interesting things to think. So I would want to suggest that what we do is let us see what is going to transpire. And, you know, I think everybody wants to know that they can have a nice weekend ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, I would want to say that let us have a room 592 tomorrow night. Let us let the night go by. Leonard, this is just my suggestion to you on air. And let us ensure that we can have some groups of lawyers to speak to the presentations. If it have given them enough time to delve into all of the submissions made in court and to tell us what we can appreciate for Monday at 1:30. And certainly Monday, you and I will be here, Leonard, aren't we?
Yes, we can't miss that. With regards to tonight, let me see. We'd have to move some, do some logistical stuff there with regards to tonight. So we come back to you guys on that. Somebody here is upbraiding me and says, you know, we have people from Friends of Guyana, Cayenne, who's listening to us couple of months now, for 3 months now they're here. So make sure that we get that in. So hello there, Friends of Guyana. But you,
Leonard, let me go with your suggestion. Let's tell everybody right now. Ladies and gentlemen, join us tonight in room 592. What do you think about that, Leonard?
Yes, I think if you don't do it, they're going to hang us. And I don't want to be hanged.
Let's have tonight room 592. I was just kidding along. Ladies and gentlemen, we actually will be joined in room 592 tonight by no other than Mr. Timothy Jonas and...
You tell them.
Mr. Ryan Crawford. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're gonna have two of the esteemed members of the bar, basically two attorneys at law, Mr. Timothy Jonas and Mr. Ryan Crawford tonight in room 592 at 7:30 tonight. Whether they will come together or come separately, you and I will certainly see that tonight, but it will be an engaging discussion tonight, Leonard.
Somebody's asking, why don't we get the lawyers from the other side? I can answer that, and you could probably back me up on that. We've been asking, we've been calling them, and they're not coming. They don't want to come. One lawyer, I remember, I called him, and he said, yes, could you, yes. And then he came back on, who's the guest that you have with you this afternoon, this evening on room 592? So I think it was either Sanjeev Dattadin or somebody. I said Sanjeev Dattadin. He texted back a couple moments. Oh my goodness, you know, you came a little late. I was trying to move things around. I can't bother make it today. Maybe next time. And so those are the kind of things that you would hear. But we have this radio station, Yog. While Glenn has always said that it belongs to Kaichur News family, the fact is he's always said that the radio and the newspaper, it is for the people. The voice of the people is there. Wherever the news goes, that's where we will be. We can't dictate the news. We cannot say what the news is. Our job is to report it in that sense. We cannot sway the news to fit anybody's direction. We can't do that. We have, if you understand how Kaichur News, the department is made up, multicultural, there's all kinds of people that's there, and they have an input into it. So we make collective decisions. This is not Glenn Lal comes and say, you know, you did this, you do that. We don't work like that. Everybody makes an input, and there's big war that goes on there. So the war room, I call it. And so that is where it is. So we have been inviting the opposition, the coalition, everybody else, even the small parties have had I think the small parties believe that they own this radio station now because they've been coming on more than anybody else. But everybody, we want everybody to have a say because that's diversity and that's what it is. And so do what you have to do. We're not afraid. We don't have an agenda here. Our agenda is for better Guyana. I can't speak for Yog. Yog could speak for himself, but I could tell you that I'm not going to be sitting here and just allow things to go. If it is that I've always liked David Granger. I thought in 2015 that he came out. He had the embodiment of what a good president looks like. I like the family thing that he portrayed. I've called for him. My column, I could tell you, my column has called for him to concede tomorrow, because his son-in-law has come out and says that he believes that his coalition has won. So has Ramkarran, so has CN Charo, and the Recon figure says that, the international community says that, the local observers said that, the local religious body says that. Who am I to say differently when the entire world is looking? Our country is at a standstill at the moment. So, as Guyanese, we should be comfortable in ourselves, that we could tell our government, they could say to Yog, you're wrong, and that whatever you're doing, he and I are friends. We're mature enough to deal with the repercussions, the impact of that. And we should, as a people, we have our votes, tell our politicians, you're wrong, I'm going to vote you out because you've messed up. You've screwed up. You screwed up very badly. And so it is going to be interesting this evening to hear two young lawyers that is not a normal run-of-the-mill. Ryan Crawford, he has an opinion, and he is going to make his opinion known. And of course, Timothy Jonas has also been making it very, very clear. He's not just another person, another citizen. So we kind of like that. Let us push it and let us see where it goes. Tonight is 7:30. There's another caller online? Yes, good evening, good afternoon, caller, you're on the air.
Hello.
Yes, good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon to both of you.
Yes, good afternoon, ma'am.
I just want to say happy, because it's very hard to get through to you guys. This is a senior person, just wants to say to both of you a happy, blessed Father's Day tomorrow. You guys need it. You need to enjoy yourself away from this stressful election. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, and have a blessed day. And you don't song like a senior citizen. You song even younger than myself.
Yeah, indeed. And Leonard, if I may add to everyone out there, I want to share exactly what Leonard, endorse exactly what Leonard said. We have reached out to a number of persons to join us, both on this daytime discussion program and in the nighttime in room 592 hot seat. But persons are not necessarily willing to come. And, I would like to repeat, Leonard, our open invitation for persons to come on the discussion programs, and to remind that whenever we have, like I said, a disclaimer every time, Leonard, when we have invited Mr. Timothy Jonas to give us his opinion, like just now when we invited Mr. Kamal Ramkarran, or when we invited Mr. Sanjeev Dattadin, we have not invited these gentlemen and ladies based on their political leaning. We invited them as attorneys at law. Where we have sought their opinions on that front, not on a political leaning, and that will continue to be. So the invitation remains open. I want to also say quickly, Leonard, that, I wish, Leonard, I think both you and I are looking forward for the swearing in of the new government, because I know, like what I did, I was highly critical of the PPP and many of the things that they did when in office. And when APNU AFC came in, I stayed quiet for 100 days. I allowed them their 100 days. I did not raise anything. And it was after that, then we realized that it wasn't a change, but an exchange. Then we started to speak out again. So I would want to think that when this new government is sworn in, we are going to give them some time. I will certainly give them 100 days before I start to ramp up the heat again, to ensure that things, we keep tabs on things. But Leonard, viewers and listeners, look, I have personally, I can't speak for Leonard, this here that I've done for the past 111 days, this has just been a voluntary service. This has just been totally voluntary. This is not a job. This is no paying stuff for me. It's just voluntary. And because why? We want to see this country in a better place. We want to see good things happen, and we got to continue working for good things to happen. And Dio, yes, we did invite Mr. Gaskin to room 592. He has said that he preferred not to have an interview at this stage, but at the right time he would be happy to.
Thank you very much, dear Yog. And I can tell you, as soon as we finish here, I'm going down, and I have to write. I have a full-time job as a reporter too. So I have an editor, or I have editors, and I have the publisher, Mr. Glendale, a very hard taskmaster. It's a pleasure working with him, though. He allows you freedom to express your opinion, but very, very strong-minded, very strong-willed, has his own opinions, and he pushes that, but you have to know how to push back. Hello there to Mr. Glendale and my team, my colleagues down at Kiteshore News. Very young, very charged, very energized. And of course, to everybody who has been joining us here, and my team, my technical team here at Kiteshore Radio has been giving us hell, giving myself and Yog hell. We have their salaries this month and to collect Yog, so there's going to be exciting time in a couple of days. They have said that they're going to donate us for all the hard work and the pro bono work that we've been doing, free work. So thank you very much for that. There's a call online. Good afternoon. I think we missed that. Go ahead, Yog.
Let me say this. I mean, I from an outsider perspective, I don't have membership at any of the political parties. But Leonard, you guys have done a fantastic job. I want to say this nation owes Leonard Gildarie, Glenn Lal, Ruel Johnson, Kiana, Shakima, of course, Kamal, Josh, Kevin, all of you guys. I think this country owes Kiteshore News and Kiteshore Radio a debt of gratitude. You have always been speaking out, and you know, we can only hope, well, we know, not hope, we know you will continue to play your role as we all seek to develop this country. But ladies and gentlemen, we got to remember, whatever happens with the politics of this country, the oil continues to be pumped, gold continues to be exploited, and everything else continues to go down. And when you don't have a government in place like what we have presently, everything is going haywire and nobody knows. And it hurts us to think that children are starving. Gold is being extracted. Oil is, the gas is being flared and wasted rather than tapped. Oil continues to be pumped and nothing, no government in place. And this is why I wish to repeat, Mr. Granger, you are doing this country a lot of harm. Step out, get out, stop squatting, and just ease us. Let this country breathe. Let us move on, sir. Happy Father's Day to you, Mr. Granger. Be a father and do what a good father would do for this nation, and let us move on.
Good afternoon. I think there's a call online. Good afternoon, caller, you're here.
Hello, good afternoon, Mr. Gildarie and Dr. Yog.
Yes, good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes, I'm a regular listener of both your programs. I think I called in one or twice. I'm the caller that talk about the movie this people making. I want to say thank you so much to you guys and your boss, Mr. Glenlar. I think I read, can't remember the 2 or 3 days that a letter he had penned in one of the papers that he only left to fall at this guy's feet to tell him to do the right thing. And I want to say thank you so much that you two are doing a wonderful job, and I want to say no bias. You're doing no bias. You just talk about the truth, and the truth shall prevail. And I want to say thank you to both of you. Happy Father's Day tomorrow. I do not have a dad. Maybe I might go over at Caneville here to see him. And I want to say may you all enjoy your Father's Day tomorrow. I want to say you two need it. You need it. And another thing I want to say, kudos to the small parties that support what is right. I want to say thank you. And I want to say thank you to the observers outside. I want to say thank you. This is I'm a citizen of Guyana. And I want to say thank you that the truth prevails. prevailing, you did that. I want to say thank you so much, Observer all the outside. Thank you so much again.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for coming in, and thank you for the encouragement. A lot of energy coming in this afternoon, Yog, from our people. And of course, I think we missed out somebody, you know. I've been receiving a lot of calls from two persons. One of them is Cyril Balgobin, and one of them is Tashana Lal.
Oh, yeah.
Tashana has been a pain in my side. Without her, we would not have been here, because every time you believe that you've got it made, she's there in your face to say, no, you need to improve on this. And so we are where we are because of her agitation, and Sarah, of course. But of course, we could not have done this yoga without our people out there. They've been with us day in, day out, encouraging us, blasting us, criticizing us, prodding us, whatever. But they've been there day in, day out, giving us encouragements, giving us tips, giving us advice. We have some of the biggest politicians in our viewers, our listeners. I want to say thank you very much for that. You guys should really take a chance forming some political party. Name is the People's Party. There's another caller online. Caller, good afternoon, you're in the air.
Hello, good day.
Good day.
How are you? This is the same thing I'm listening to the radio, you call it.
Yes, this is Kaicho Radio, elections and COVID-19 watch.
Yeah, buddy, that's what you call thing, eh? Here, I like to say one point. Are you listening?
Yes, you hear. We hear listening to you. Keep it.
When you talk about starving, I'm 73 years old. You get me?
Yes, 73 years old.
Good. My name, you call it Scott, eh?
Scott?
Yeah.
Yes.
I live Diamond.
Yes, sir.
My brother is bigger than me, and he alive, eh?
Mm-hmm.
That's 75 years. He gone over Ranger, eh?
Yes, go ahead.
Good. Am I not going to get some help?
You want some help?
Yes, sir.
What kind of help are you looking for?
I'm looking for, because I get some rice, somebody give me that in pocket.
Uh-huh.
I never cook it yet. And my little white rice, I get must be one more cooking.
All right, just give me a number very quickly and I'll give you a call back. We take it from there, right? Thank you, Scotty. What's the number?
No, but I give you my cell phone number, eh?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
6.
Yes.
Not. 1. 6. 1.
Yes.
8.
Something is missing here. 6.
I miss it?
Some 601 618 was missing. One number missing.
Here. 6 not 1 6 8 1 8.
Yes, got that very clearly. So Scotty, somebody's going to call you. Thank you very much, Scotty, and thank you very much for coming through.
The phone now?
Come off the phone, yes, Scotty.
And you'll give me a buzz when?
We will give you a buzz, Scotty, and thank you for coming through. Man, come off the phone, man, Scotty.
I will do that.
Yes, Scotty.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Lots of energy in that. I enjoy that one, Yog.
And let me also say that, while you and I have been, and the entire Kaito staff has been on this elections watch, everybody, let me use this opportunity to say thanks to, Anita, my beautiful wife. I know she's been teasing you all with a lot of her baking skills, newfound baking skills, but thanks to the families for being supportive of us and the entire Kaito team too.
Well, obviously, I got to say hello to my wife, too, Sabrina. She's very private, but I'm going to have to do it. If I don't do it, I'd be killed. So, hello there, Sabrina and the kids. I didn't see her. I have to do that. As I go home tonight, I can. Probably don't have any food to eat. But there's a caller online. This is a day for laughs. Good afternoon, caller. You're in the air.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon,
Leonard and Dr. Yog.
Yes, sir.
I guess you all you're talking to so many people, but I've been calling so often.
Yes, sir.
Leonard, let me say, I sentiment with the caller before the last caller, the female.
when she expressed her deepest sympathy and thanks and gratitude to both of you, comrades. I want to express those same sentiments because you have led and give this nation, you and Dr. Yog, a great relief across this nation for what was happening in the past few days and few months. I want to say to both of you, comrades, that tomorrow is Father's Day. I have not had a father. I've lost my father 18 years. He died at the age of 53. But I have seen you and Dr. Yog played a very important role as father, not only for your children, but as a father of this nation and this dear land. I want to trust that God will bless you and Dr. Yog, also Mr. Glendale, for allowing the Guyanese people to hear the truth. I can remember when that petition was filed, I was very frustrated, and Dr. Yog went on to give me and you a lot of encouragement to be patient in. Comrades, I don't know how much to extend my deepest love to the two of you. And Dr. Yog, I admire you with your prayer in the evening. I trust that God will bless you and Leonard and give both of you long life to speak out what is wrong in this country. And Monday coming, we trust in God's name that peace will prevail and justice will prevail and this nation will move to betterment. And lastly, we have seen the son-in-law, Mr. Gustin and Ramkarran, would have speak out and accepted not boldly to the public, but to the statement that the APNU have lost the election and the PPP have won this election. Leonard, I have said over and over, comrades, I'm a party activist, and I will be standing on the ground by God's grace to make sure good governance delivers to the people, all Guyanese. And I want to wish you and Dr. Yog a blessed Father's Day, and may both of you live to see many, many more Father's Day in your life. May you men live to see over 100 with good health and strength to continue the hard work. God bless you and enjoy the day. Take care.
Thank you very much, dear the caller, and thank you for the encouragement. And you know, he has said something, Yog, and I must say to the people, we probably would have lost some loved ones, especially this pandemic. 12 families or friends and families would have lost their loved ones. You remember that businessman, that trucker, that would have died, and there's so many other cases that we are recording. And so we are here with you. We love you very much. Lots of love coming here from Kaicho Radio. If you're now joining us, elections COVID-19 watch. What do we tell you with regards to the court case is that on Monday 1:30, the Court of Appeal is going to hand down its decision with regards to the court case that was filed. A motion was filed in the court halting the chief elections officer from it wanted to stop the chief elections officer from handing over his declaration report to the Guyana Elections Commission. And so that decision, the court would at 11 o'clock today have heard from several representatives, several lawyers, and that case is over. So the court is going to rule on Monday at 1:30. This evening, room 592, as we come down, we have about 15 minutes more for program time, Yog. This evening, room 592, Timothy Jonas, attorney at law also, Ryan Crawford, they're going to be here, and maybe we could have some other guests. We're going to work on it to bring to you what has transpired today and what are some of the scenarios that are likely to play out for Monday that is going to lead to the decision. And maybe if the decision goes one way or the other, what are some of the scenarios that are going to be playing out from there. So it's going to be very hot tonight as we look at that situation. Yes, Joe, go ahead.
If I may, just to remind everybody, that last caller remind me of something that we didn't mention to our listeners and viewers for a good while, but you know, our prayers continue. Just to share with everybody that every evening at 6 o'clock, we have an online multi-religious forum where we offer prayers from the various religious groups every single evening. It goes from 6 to 7. Couples, most of the nights it continues to probably about 6:30 to about 7:15, 7:30. But every night we have that prayer. It is multi-religious. All the religions pray there, and it continues. We pray for the health of the nation. And Leonard, the good thing about it is that multi-religious forum, you know, it's persons from all over the world that joining, basically, depending on when they got time and how they're able to make it. But we have had people from UK, USA, the entire Caribbean, you know, Canada, of course, and of course a lot of people from Guyana are tuning in. So that happens every night. And also, finally, to that point, you know, I must say thanks to one of the Berbice channels, Channel 19, that has been carrying the prayer session every single night. They carry it every single night across the quarantine coast. So prayers do help, ladies and gentlemen, and whether we want to admit it or not, prayers has a great part to play in our life. A pastor called in earlier, another brother called in, and you know, if we all were mindful of exhibiting or displaying such actions as would have been approved by the prophets and by the spiritual teachers, this world would have been a far better place, Leonard.
Absolutely. We must pay attention to our brothers and our sisters when they are in need. If we have resources, we could probably help them, and we can't stop that. Yog, and we must, there's a new piece of news item that we have to share with our people in Guyana. You know, a couple of days back, I think 2 or 3 days back, the authorities would have come out with a statement talking about the lifting of non-curfew measures in regions 5 and 8. Well, because of the situation there, 11 teachers would have been tested. Region 5 and Region 8, they are implementing it back because of the worry, the threat to those 2 regions. So Region 5, that's the West Berbice area. Region 8, the Mahadeo area and around that area has wide areas, open areas there. So they are withdrawing the lifting of the non-curfew measures for those 2 areas there. And so we will be bringing you more details as it continues, as they are being released by the authorities. This caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You're in the air.
Hi, Leonard. It's me again. Please allow me.
Yes, sir.
I want to extend Happy Father's Day greetings to my President-elect, Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, and our former President, Dr. Barrett Abdio. He is a father to this nation. And Happy Father's Day to all the fathers across this country and in this entire world. And for those fathers who beyond the grave, may God give them the eternal. Thank you again, and Happy Father's Day to you and Dr. Yog and our President-elect, Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, and our former President, Dr. Barrett Abdio. Happy.
Thank you very much, caller. And so we will be back with you at 7:30 p.m. sharp this evening, room 592, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, and we have 2 guests there, Ryan Crawford, as well as, who's the other one, Yog?
Timothy Jonas.
2 attorneys at law who are going to look at the angles and the analysis of today's court case, as well as some of the scenarios that's going to play from that. And let me just round off here. Ramkarran privately concedes loss in meeting with unit heads. And we're looking here at Kaichur News front page. Lots of news here today. If you missed your copy, you could get it. Pick it up if you're not getting it, because we hear it's all sold out on the road today. You get us on Kaichur News online. And I can no longer wait quietly and politely while the country gets hijacked, ridiculed and torn apart. This is the son-in-law of the president, David Granger, and he's no other than former business minister Dominic Gaskin. Very harsh statement coming out. And he's also calls Lowenfield's report devious. Very, very strong statement there. And of course, the Justice for All party, they've conceded and they said swear in Irfan Ali immediately, and that is coming from C.N. Sharma, one of the founders of the party. His son, Jaipal Sharma, would have been a minister within the coalition as recently recently lost the election according to the recount. And so the court case would have come to an end as in terms of the hearing on Monday 1:30 Yog. That is we are going to see a decision coming from the Court of Appeal in Kingston there. So so we're waiting on that. Is there anything else before we go to the lines that you'd want to say, Yog?
I just want to remind everyone, please be on the alert. Do not fall for any calls for action. Do not fall for any racist rants. Do not share anything that's racist. And Leonard, there's one thing I just wish to say, albeit a bit facetiously. There's a fake press release. It's fake. It's absolute lie, saying that Public Relations Officer Ward would have been suspended. But I want to use that fake thing to say this to all of the people in GCOM. You have put us through hell. And I certainly hope that after these elections, Leonard, that they're all suspended pending a commission of inquiry into every aspect of the commission and everything they have led us through. Between Mr. Grains and his political party and GCOM, we have been in a place that I don't want to wish anybody in any country to be, ever.
Not a rich country like ours, a country that has so much resources. This is a place that we should not be. And of course, the first order of the National Assembly, when it convenes under a new government, will have to be the tabling of a motion that would call for an investigation. If not, somebody else would have to file some cases. This is beyond believable. 111 days and we can't have a declaration. We can't have a new government. We can't have a president. I think we could take a couple of calls very quickly. Caller, you on the line. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Happy Father's Day to the two guys, my brother.
Thank you
I
very
want
much.
to wish you a happy Father's Day, and I think you should take tomorrow off and spend some time with your family. You know, brother, money doesn't make people happy. Some people think that money and position does make people happy, but it does not. You know what left with us is memories.
Legacy.
You know, so spend some time with your family, because remember that we passed through this world one time, and you know what left is the memory that we make. You know, so what I can advise everybody, spend time with your family, because when you're not here is the memory that left with your family. And I can tell you from experience, you know, sometimes something happened and you say, you know what, if I didn't know this, I would do this and I would do that. Because my husband passed away a couple of years ago, and I every time I remember, I cry. And,
Yes.
and why? Because I say, you know what, I could have been do this and I could have been do that, you know. But then it happened, and nobody knows when the time comes. So whatever we can do in this world now, let we do it to our brothers and sisters, anybody that we can do a little favor for, let we do it, you know, and spend time with your family and make memories. Some people think that, you know, money is everything. No, let me tell you, you can get a pile of money there, and that would make you happy. But if you have your children near you, regardless what you have or what you don't have, you're happy with them, but not money. And what I can tell the public, money does buy wealth, but money does not buy health. You know? And if people realize this thing, that we need health. Money is not everything.
Yes.
Health, and we have to do the right thing and pray to God to be blessed with health and happiness.
Thank you
So,
very
my
much.
brother, I want you to spend some time with your family and make memories with your family. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you,
you-
very much.
you
And
take care.
you have a pleasant rest of the day, and your
Okay.
family too.
Okay,
Thank you very
bye-bye.
much. Bye-bye. For those, I think Yog is raring to go that we don't do this. We are not being paid. I think Mr. Lal has given us a lot of time on the air because he says it is a service that he wants to provide to the people. He's very passionate about it, and we're doing it. It is pretty difficult. We've been doing it more than 110 days now. And it has been a joy in some parts. Some days it's very difficult in the morning, in the night. We've literally dropped everything else, me with my report and suffering, so we could be able to bring you the live updates. I'm learning as I go along. because radio is a pretty new thing, but we have some good teachers out there, or people out there have been teaching us what we should say and what we shouldn't say, and we're learning. It's a very good thing. Yog, you've been a good teacher too. My friend Yog has fallen asleep.
No, I'm just listening to Leonard saying this. Leonard, thank you for admitting that finally. But jokes aside, I want to take this opportunity. Leonard, we are to get back to a little bit of this serious note. Ladies and gentlemen, let us not feel this thing is over. Let us keep praying, but let us keep on being pragmatic. We do know that there's a handful of persons that wants to hold on to power at all costs. The fact, and tonight we want to discuss with Mr. Ryan Crawford and Mr. Timothy Jonas, the fact that the Court of Appeal has now put their decision to Monday. What is it going to now just give this group of squatters more time to come up with some other shenanigan to make a more difficult pitch to this nation? Is it that Monday we're going to see some people trampling to CCJ? We don't know. But one thing we do know, and we love you too, but please stop drinking the Kool-Aid. God give you a brain, use it, and realize, to all the APNU AFC supporters, realize your party is not saying they have won these elections anymore. They have given up that tune. All they are now hoping for some magic to happen, for somebody to say these elections would be null and void. And it cannot happen. Regardless of which is the highest score they go to, they will be sent right back to Madam Claudette Singh to make a declaration.
Thank you very much, Yog. As we come to program time, we want to say to you it has been a pleasure being with you for the last, let me see, two and a half hours. And so we are going to be back with you 7:30 p.m. sharp for room 592. Dr. Yog Mahadeo, as the host, will be leading the way with myself, Leonard Gildarie there. Also, two lawyers in the house, Ryan Crawford and Timothy Jonas, and we're going to be discussing elections 2020, the court case, and the way forward this evening, 7:30 p.m. sharp. I want to say hello to everybody out there, and if you missed us, or if you're going to miss us this evening, a happy Father's Day tomorrow to all, and thank you for joining us wherever you are in the islands, North America, Europe, Caribbean, our neighbors, and right across this beautiful country of ours. Do have a pleasant rest of the day. And my co-host, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, thank you, sir. And of course, our people in the studio, technicians in the studio, a good day to you. And until this evening, have a pleasant rest of the day.
Radio, keeping you informed.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kite Radio.
Chap. And here goes, I represent for 99.1 Kite Radio, the radio with a difference.
Kite Radio.
Covering Guyana from coast to coast.
Demerara.